If I could ask you one question, it would be this. Where do we even find good leaders anymore? We've seemed to have lost the ability to find good leaders in politics, in sports, and even in faith in some cases. So where do we find them? That's today on the 306 Podcast. Welcome to the 306 Podcast. My name is Scott. If you are a local here, welcome back. It's great to have you. And if this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the 306 Podcast, we strive to become better leaders in every area of our lives. And so here today, what we are going to be talking about is finding good leaders. And where do we find them? Who do we model ourselves after? You know, last week I issued you a challenge that if you would start you would start creating opportunities to challenge yourself. If you're not being fed opportunities to lead yourself and to lead other people, then you need to start creating them for yourself. And so I want to ask you, first off, how's that going? Have you come across any opportunities to lead? Have you taken them? How did they go? Are you in the process of putting together a plan to lead? How's it going? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear it. Like I said, I want to be your biggest cheerleader. I want to be the person that if you don't have someone else pouring into you, I want to be the person pouring into you. And I truly, truly mean that. As you can probably tell, we are not in our normal 306 podcast studio. We are actually in our 304 studio, which is right down the hall from our other studio. They are putting in new windows in our other studio. And so if you hear pounding and banging, that's probably them working. And so we are taking over our Conviction studio, which is Studio 304, for this week. So that's why it looks completely different and a little dark. We just kind of threw everything in here for the time being so that we could get this podcast out on time for Thursday. So I'll catch you up. What are some things that I've done? Because I'm holding you accountable, but I also want you to hold me accountable. And so this Sunday, last week, I was asked if I would teach our Sunday school class, it's called 224. It's for young families. It's a large Sunday school class, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's a large class. There's anywhere from, there could be 35 people there. There could be 60 people there. It kind of changes every week. And so I was asked to go in and teach. And so this is something that I love doing. I love teaching. But if you've watched some of my previous podcasts, you'll see that I've been dealing with some anxiety issues as of late. And so while it's super exciting on one end, it is incredibly nerve-wracking on the other hand. And so I'm going through and I'm going through the material, and I'm just trying to remain calm and putting in the time to make sure that I'm properly prepared and all of that. And so I am teaching that this Sunday. And so if you haven't found an opportunity to lead, maybe it's time to create one. Maybe it's time where you need to do something where you are the one that is leading something up. Maybe it's just organizing a trip with some friends or a play date if you have children, or whatever it could be. Just find something that you can lead up, that you can start and lead from start to finish. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It could just be something small. Maybe if you're someone that's looking to start a business, maybe it's finally having that conversation about what it would look like to start a business. Maybe it's talking to someone who, Maybe they're thinking about starting a business and you want to help coach them along. You know that they're talented. You know that they have the skills and the abilities to do it, but they're nervous. They're scared. They're unsure. Maybe you use this as an opportunity to help lead them. Now, last week, we also talked about how we need to have people pouring into us. Leadership, again, leadership is not just about you pouring into other people and you leading all of the time and going out and just living your life in a way so that you are completely drained. I would contend one of the most important things about leadership is having someone leading you. Someone pouring into you, refueling you, remotivating you so that you can go out and effectively lead other people. And so this week, I want to talk about where do we find these people? Where do we find people who can pour into us, who are willing to pour into us, or people that we can just model ourselves after, people who have a proven track record of doing things the right way. They have good values, good principles. Where do we find these people? And we want people that are leading us in good ways, not bad ways. We don't want to be learning business from Bernie Madoff. If you don't know who Bernie Madoff is, do a little bit of research. But it seems like there's a couple of places that traditionally, if you're my age or a little bit older than me, that we typically would look to find leaders. And that's in our politicians. That's in our athletes, celebrities, or maybe even famous business leaders like a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, or maybe it is Bernie Madoff. I don't know. Or, maybe Elon Musk is a huge or a wildly popular business person right now because of his Tesla company, with the Boring Company, with all of the things, with SpaceX. I mean, he's just doing a ton of things. But why do we consider them leaders? Because we have the younger generation, and I would say from my age down, we'll say, they don't really look to politicians as much. They still look to athletes. I think athletes are kind of universal. They probably look to celebrities, so-and-so for business leaders. But more so, our youth, and I would say anyone from tablet, where they're using tablets and computers, so like, I don't know, it seems like kids 4 years old are on the tablets now. But we'll say 8 years old to 30. I'm 29. I'm riding up against that 30 mark, which is, it's terrifying me. I don't know why I have so much anxiety about turning 30. I don't know why. It's like you turn 30 and I feel like life just falls apart. The majority of my friends are already 30 and they're fine. They're still ticking. Most of them are in better shape than I am and all of that kind of stuff. But in that age range, 8 to 30, and I get that that's a huge gap, but they find a lot of their leaders from social media. They follow YouTubers. There was the whole big controversy about Logan Paul and how he made an inappropriate video about a young man who committed suicide over in Suicide Forest over in Japan. And that set the social media world in a tizzy. And so there were questions, how much influence should these YouTubers have? Well, here's the thing. Every single person influences other people in some form or fashion. That's just how it is. Now, how much influence someone has is limitless. I mean, you could influence everyone. You could influence one person. But they're getting a lot of their influence from YouTubers, people on YouTube that they follow on social media and Twitter and Instagram. They're living and modeling their lives, trying to at least, after these people on YouTube because they're normal, ordinary people in their eyes. They follow their vlog, they follow their podcast, they follow their Instagram feed because they post all of these beautiful pictures on Instagram, and they are attracted to that. But why? Why do we, is it the fame? Is it the popularity? What is it about them that attracts us to them? Is it their mannerisms, their personalities? Is it the cars they drive, the houses they live in? And I would say for a lot of people, that's exactly what they look for. How successful are they? How much influence, how much power do they have? That's a good leader. But that's not it. That's part of it, but that's not the inner workings of leadership, in my opinion. Granted, this is all my opinion, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that say, no, leadership is completely about how much money you make. But I would disagree, and here's why. What we need to figure out is what are the qualities, the characteristics of a good leader. And maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. Next week, we will talk about what are some characteristics of a good leader. Because for people, they're going to be wildly different, but they're going to be different outcomes, but the same formula for finding them. And those are this. What do we believe? What are our morals? What are our values? What are our principles? And then finally, what do we want to get out of life? This thing just went weird on me. So those things. What do we believe? What are our morals, our values, our principles? Those are all kind of interconnected. And then what do we want to get out of life? Where are we going? Where do we want to end up? And do the people that we currently look up to, do they lead us there? Or do they not? Here's an example. And it's something that I've been struggling with. Let's say, for me, what do I believe? It's a long, long topic, but I'll try to give you a quick thing. I want to be a better follower of Christ. That is my thing. And that's my big overall picture. And in that, I want to lead a good business, which is Visual Element Media, a good marketing production company. I want to create good videos. I want to be a good podcaster. I want Love Local to get out. I want it to reach people. I want to develop leaders, not just my age, not just in business, but I want to create good leaders in relationships and families and households and businesses, for employees, for everything. I want to develop good leaders and bring them up so that they can go out and find their niche and lead. And I understand that I'm just a very, very small part of that. But that's what I want. My values and my principles are based after Christ. What his values and principles are, they're mine. What he teaches, I want to be. So then how am I going to get there if I'm so consumed in podcasts that contain derogatory, like profanities or inappropriate jokes or topics or all of that? And if those people don't have the same values and principles and morals, and if they're not on the same track, if they're not looking to follow Christ, how is me following them getting me closer to him? How can I say that's what I want to do, but I'm not doing anything to get me there? It's kind of like last week. I said about the two pages. You write down what your biggest struggles are, what your biggest problems are on one page, and then you write down where you want to go and what your goals and your dreams are on another page, and then you evaluate what your decisions are leading you to. Well, that's the same with leadership. What are the people that you're allowing to lead you, leading you to? Are they leading you to be a moral and just person who are following the values and principles you want to lead? Is that what they're doing, or are they leading you away from it? And I get it, especially for believers, for Christians. A lot of us are sitting here thinking there's no quality content out there for believers. There's no podcast. I get it. I'm there. That's why I'm trying to develop Love Local. And I would say maybe that's an area where you can step up, where you can lead, where you can say, you know what? There aren't enough short films. There's not enough entertainment. There's not enough art. There's not enough entertainers in the Christian world. So I'm going to step up and I'm going to make that something I want to lead, I want to produce. That's what I'm trying to do. And it's extremely difficult. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where I'm going because I don't have a ton of resources at my hand either. But if I start doing it, even though I may not be doing it really well, but if I can do it well enough that I can get some other people to look up to me and say, I want to do what he's doing and I want to do it better. That is how you start a movement of people in a direction that they need to go. You don't have to do it the best way, but you have to do it well enough that it entices other people to be able to say, I want to do that and I want to do it better. There's always got to be opportunities to grow. And I'm not saying that everyone you look up to needs to be a pastor or a podcast. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is this. You need to be looking up to people who are moral, just, have good principles, and all of that stuff. But remember, we are all human. We are all fallen. We all are sinful. We all make mistakes. Don't put too much stock into the physical person. Rather, put your stock into the principles and the values and the beliefs that they live by. So where do we find good leaders? Well, not sure it's about finding the best leader, but it's about finding the characteristics and finding people who are living those out. And that could be in any industry. You want to find someone who's a doctor who's leading well, find a doctor who's living out these principles. You want to find an actor who you want to look up to, find an actor who's living out these principles, or a business owner, or a teacher, or a pastor, or whoever you want it to be, a mother, a father. Find people who are doing it. They may not be the most attractive, they may not have the sexiest, presentation, and it may not be beautiful drone footage and all of their vlogs and all of that kind of stuff. But if they're living out the values and principles that you want to have, follow them, support them, let them know that you're following them. And then let that be your ticket. Let that be your motivation to then step up and lead and do what they're doing and do it better. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast and you haven't had a chance to catch up on our previous podcast, I would encourage you to go back and get caught up on watching those podcasts. Also, subscribe on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you're already a local, thank you so much. And you can become one just by signing up on lovelocalpa.com. And we would love to have you in our neighborhood. And remember, always lead well.